Welcome and thank you for joining me today. I'm Rhonda Livingston, National Education Leader at ACECQA, the Australian Children's Education and Care Quality Authority. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this presentation was developed, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people watching this presentation. Our Inclusion in Practice videos are based on a series of inclusion forums delivered in 2018 and 2019. Thanks to my colleagues in the inclusion agencies and regulatory authorities and the input and interaction of more than 1,500 educators, we can share this knowledge with you. This video covers some key points from the Guide to the National Quality Framework. What do high-quality inclusive practices look, feel and sound like? How can services create inclusion-ready environments, policies, procedures, practices and programs? We'll answer these questions as a starting point to help you create the best inclusive practices for your unique service and community and ensure you meet the National Quality Standard, or NQS, that all services are rated against. But first, some background information. Authorised officers assess and rate services across Australia, identifying the inclusive practices being delivered by educators, staff, service leaders and communities. Authorised officers identify these practices using three key methods: observe, discuss and cite. They observe what children, families, educators, coordinators and other staff members are doing. For example, children actively engaged in learning experiences, educators engaged in caring, friendly and respectful interactions with colleagues, and educators engaged in respectful conversations with families or modifying an outdoor environment. Authorised officers discuss why a service uses a particular practice and how they reflect on their practices, programs and policies. They engage in discussions with the approved provider, nominated supervisor, educators, coordinators, family daycare educators and staff members. Finally, authorised officers cite documentation as evidence to support particular practices at the service. For example, records of attendance and enrolment, policies and procedures, family meeting minutes, safety checklists, newsletters, photos, collections of children's work and records of child assessments or evaluations. Recognising that each service context is different and unique, and based on these three methods, here are some examples of high-quality inclusive practice. Firstly, an authorised officer may observe environments that are designed to support each child's access. In out-of-school hours care, these environments may be created for play and leisure. Educators making decisions about play materials to encourage each child's participation and allow them to experience success. Educators adapting aspects of routines, transitions and staffing arrangements to facilitate the inclusion of all children. And they may observe children developing strong foundations in their family culture and language and the broader community's culture without compromising their cultural identities. Or children initiating their own experiences using equipment and resources they can access independently. Secondly, an authorised officer may discuss how the service ensures their staff engage in professional development to learn the skills and expertise to support the inclusion of children with specific health, cultural or developmental requirements. They may also discuss the service's strategies for collaborating with family members, specialists and resource agencies to support the inclusion of all children. They might discuss how other professionals and therapists are involved in devising programs for all children, and how shared goals for learning are identified and implemented. They might discuss how educators identify potential barriers to inclusion, or how the service collaborates with their local school to devise complementary support plans for children. And an authorised officer may cite examples of individual support plans for children which are part of the daily program and/or a service's strategic inclusion plan. They may cite evidence of professional development that supports inclusive practices, or that the service's statement of philosophy, policies and procedures demonstrate a commitment to access, inclusion and participation for every child and their family in the service. And they may cite evidence of meetings or communication between the service, families and other agencies working with individual children. Or they might cite examples of how educators plan programs that are responsive to children's knowledge, strengths, ideas, cultures, abilities and interests. These quality practice examples are just a few of those listed in the Guide to the National Quality Framework that demonstrate the meeting National Quality Standard. And you can find them at the end of the section for each of the 40 elements. While the elements apply to all services, the easy-to-use icons will differentiate specific service contexts, such as school-age care, family daycare, birth to 3, and centre-based services. The Observe, Discuss and Cite icons are an easy way to find what you're looking for. You can buy or download for free a copy of the guide on the ACECQA website, but we encourage you to use the online version as it's often updated to ensure it's a contemporary source of information to support quality practice. But remember, it is just a guide, not a prescriptive checklist. Creativity and innovation are encouraged to ensure that the standards are met in a way that suits the unique context of your service. Thank you for joining me today and engaging in professional development to strengthen your inclusive practices. You may wish to record that you have accessed this information and video in your individual performance plan as part of meeting development of professionals. I hope you have found this presentation helpful as an overview of quality inclusive practices and what authorised officers may be looking for as they gather evidence that you are meeting the National Quality Standard.